All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I am your host, Jacqueline Davis. I am the Director of Workplace Mental Health and DEI here at Mental Health Connecticut. And before we get started, I just want to share a few housekeeping items with you all. Please know that this webinar is being recorded and that closed captions are enabled and available to you if you should need it. If you have any questions during today's presentation, please use the Q&A function located on your screen, and we will address as many questions as time allows. For if any reason we're not unable, excuse me, if we're unable to address any live questions, we'll send an email follow-up response along with additional resources and links to learn more about MHC and the events that we will be discussing here today. I'm very pleased to be a part of today's webinar entitled We Are Better Together, the Power of Community-Based Healing. This webinar was created as part of MHC's mission to partner with individuals, families, and communities to create environments that support long-term health and wellness. In just the last few months, we've seen attacks on communities right here in Connecticut, as well as across the nation and the globe. For instance, right here in Hartford, the Black Lives Matter mural was defaced with anti-Semitic images and messaging. And in Middletown, homes flying pride flags have been targeted and had their homes and vehicles vandalized. These communities are just a few examples of instances that are causing trauma and the need to come together as a community for support and for healing. And it is my great pleasure to introduce today's speakers who will share their expertise on community-based healing, Remi Kyek and Kenny Mercer. Remi is MHC's Chief Experience Officer and has been an employee here for over 30 years, holding roles from residential case manager, program manager, director, and vice president as well. Prior to joining MHC, Remi was a marriage and family therapist. She holds her bachelor's degree in psychology from Montclair State College and earned her master's degree in marriage and family therapy from Fairfield University. Kenny Mercer is a Connecticut resident and founder of Full Blast Booking, a community-based support system committed to creating safe space for artists to showcase their talents and network with fellow professionals from all experience levels, utilizing their platform as artists and professionals to raise mental health awareness and suicide prevention support. Kenny is the creator and leader of Tour for Life, an annual event raising awareness and bringing communities together since 2019. Remi, let's have you get us started today.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. Geez, Jackie, thanks for that wonderful introduction. So why are we here today? Today, we're going to really be discussing the power of community. What do we mean when we talk about community? And what it means to be part of community. So I'm sure we all agree that we have witnessed what I call a cascading plethora of untoward events. These are events that we didn't expect. We really didn't have time for preparation or give much thought to. And when I talk about these events, I'm talking about from the COVID pandemic, which of course was brought about a lot of loss, loss of life, loss of job security, and loss of, I feel like, a sense of agency, the sense that we knew what was coming next, that our legs could hold us. Or others call it the fear of the unknown, right? We've also experienced, because of that, and for many other reasons, economic downturn. The communities of color, the LGBTQ plus communities, Jewish and Muslim communities, have all been targeted, and along with plenty of other types of social unrest and violent events. And when you combine that with the fact that we are human beings and deeply feeling beings, we have our own struggles that we're dealing with. So, that was a mouthful. Today's society, we've had recently what I like to call kind of a surplus of trauma. Many of us are depleted. If we're not depleted, maybe we're feeling anxious. I do know that, and it is through reports and studies that we're feeling isolated, and some of us, frankly, paralyzed, which means at the same time that we're feeling isolated, we also don't feel like we have the energy or can't find the energy to do something, to make a move, right? Something to help ourselves. When these occur, our mental health is at risk. Rates of depression, rates of anxiety, substance use and abuse, they've all skyrocketed. And what is that about, and what can we do about it, right? Outside of And of course, we're not diminishing it and the importance of it, but outside of kind of one-to-one help. So, um, and along with this, I don't want to forget that our mental health and our physical health are very strongly tied together. So, one affects the other. So now we're looking at ourselves not feeling as well either. So, um, when I look at what we've all gone through, I really equate our experience as a whole to that of loss, right? Whether it's loss of life, um, change, and things that have changed, maybe our work positions, how we work, where we work has changed. And all that can really bring up about a sense of loss. And as we move through loss, we're actually in grieving, right? And what with grieving comes along all the signs, right? From being in disbelief to becoming angry to pushing back, resentment, all those things that we need to do as we're moving back and forth in the healing process. It certainly isn't a linear one. Um, that's okay. I think there's a lot to be learned in that. But um, even if we're not experiencing this grief, I can certainly say for myself that I still have a sense of, I call it anticipatory grief, right? Getting the sense that things seem to be maybe quieting down in some areas now, right? But I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. And, all of this, I want everybody to understand is natural. These past couple years, and again, even stuff that's going on in our personal lives, they have been full of things that have been unexpected, um, and full of we're at a time that maybe we're feeling like we're in a free fall, right? That sense of not knowing what's coming next really takes away our sense of agency, which is a feeling that we have power, a little bit of control, or at least the ability to manage some of this, right? So, we're all healing from something right now. And community is such a great way to move forward in a healing process. Um, Dean Ornish did some fabulous studies, and they noted that anything that promotes a sense of isolation, right, often leads to illness and suffering. While that which promotes a sense of love, of intimacy, I call connection, right, or community or sense of community is very, very healing. So when we talk about community, what do we really mean, right? Because it's an interesting term. Community, when I first think of it, I think of my community. Where do I live? I think of something geographic, right? Where do I come home to every day? Where do I spend my time? Also, if 60% of our working days are sometimes at work in an office, that could also be the first kind of community I think about. Not only the work community, but the community in which I work, right? So, yes, it could be a geographic area. Community can also be a set of people coming together around a common interest, right? A hobby, a value, what's important to them, and a belief, whether it's spiritual or not. But all of these types of communities create connection, and with that connection, fellowship. So there's an African philosophy called, and I hope I pronounce this correctly, Ubuntu, which I thought was fabulous. And it ties our humanity to those around us. It is the philosophy of I am because we are. It's a common phrase they use to describe this philosophy. And it just shows it's putting value of community first and focusing on shared growth and prosperity. So how they're, and that reminds me too of the this saying, it takes a village, right? They're not negating the importance of us individually, right? Having strength and seeking out help. But what it does is it really highlights the importance of groups of people coming together, right? All coming together again, whether it has to do with a common value and interest, something that they're all going through, right? So why is that healthy? Why does it help? Well, there is healing power in communities. So here's what happens when we join these groups, or importantly, we create these groups, right? Because I believe very deep healing and connection can occur. And it can occur obviously inside a therapy room, right? Or self-help groups. I also think it can be found outside of the therapy room. as we talk about these communities. So, the power of relationship beyond our physiological need to have food and water, right? And to be safe. Next comes connection. We crave connection. We need connection, right? And what's the first thing that happens when we're going through something that's very difficult is a lie we tell ourselves that nobody's going to get this. This is only me, right? And I can't share this. And so what we tend to do sometimes is not only get paralyzed and not reach out, but then guilt ourselves because we must be the only one that can't handle it. And I think one of the healing powers of connection is that you have decided to take that chance to connect with other people around something you think is your own event, problem, or struggle, right? So everyone deserves to thrive, right? We need that connection to thrive. And it's more likely to happen when you allow yourself to be receptive to love, to help, support, right? When you realize you're not alone. Okay. You know, shame and fear and sadness that I referred to just a second ago that comes with our feeling that nobody else is going to understand or nobody else actually feels some of the things that I'm feeling or experiencing. Um, these are, that shame, that fear, that sadness. Those are things we're not supposed to feel, right? Um, when we gather together in community and in safe community, we can expose that. And sometimes we feel safer to expose that because other people are. We're all coming together to share, right? And all of a sudden there's a feeling of, hey, you too, right? Or, oh God, me too. And I think that's where the beauty arises. Some people see that as one of the scariest types of things, but that in itself creates the beginning of a healing opportunity. So I think community healing is a gift that we give ourselves and that we also give others. Again, when we allow them to say me too, or me saying to them, me too. Um, I think in community, we're seen and accepted. And part of that is the sheer power of being witnessed by others, right? Who share a same belief, value, or a same struggle. I think that witnessing, and I think being witnessed and being heard is a core human desire, much like that one that we talk about with connection, right? We don't want to connect. Did everybody ever tell you that you could feel alone in a crowd, right? The core of all this community participation and the reason we want to build community is because we will be witnessed and heard because we're connecting with people in that same kind of way, right? And to believe that no one in the world understands what we're going through, it's a lie that keeps us from healing. So let's connect, let's start joining together and understand the sheer power of this. And the sense of belonging is also something that helps us heal. We're connecting to other people, we're able to share our experiences, but we're also able to share our, I think, our wisdom and our knowledge, right? And I think helping other people is huge. That whole thing about giving back is so huge in helping us move forward as well. I think that coming together in community helps create a sense of purpose for us, right? While we're drowning sometimes in our own, maybe our pain, our guilt, our sadness, or anxiety, coming together, sharing, creating a safe space for others, and sharing again our wisdom, I believe gives us great purpose. So many studies have shown that coming together in a connection with other people not only helps us physically, they've done a lot of studies with older adults who have connection and studied them in comparison to those that have reported feeling isolated. And those that have connection have lower instances of heart disease, blood pressure, and feelings of overall wellness, meaning physical energy and whatnot. People that are in connection with others also feel more satisfied with their life, more purposeful, which of course helps alleviate, those symptoms of depression, right? Not being able to get out of our own way, having difficulty concentrating, um, just feeling like everything in our body isn't working, right? Um, I just think there's so much to be said about the importance of coming together, seeking connection with one another, right? So, how do we begin to do some of that? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are really wanting at this point to connect with something or someone somewhere. So, what are some of the kinds of things that we can do that can help us with that? So, and how do you get started, right? Um, at the beginning, it really should be, and what are the types of things we can do? So, self reflection is got to be a number one. We know when we're not in a good place, right? And as hard as it is to move, doing the self reflection, determining you obviously know that something's going on. You're not feeling right. You're not feeling good, right? We have to think about what's going on with us. And when we want to build or find a community, we have to determine what's important to us and what are we connected to and start to build upon that, right? Interest, if we want to build, doesn't always have to be a community that's just all around self help. Remember, community in itself creates that feeling of camaraderie and wellness, right? So it could be a community we get involved with around common interests, common values, what's important, common beliefs, right? And ways that we can join in community are advocacy. We can join in around activism. We can help with community education or training. We can gather, meet with, or create and organize vigils, celebrations, pride events, prayer circles. One thing that people forget is volunteering or donating. I mean, the sense of, I think what's interesting about being in community is the fact that yes, we ourselves are fed through community, right? And we get that sense of belonging and feeling heard and not alone anymore. But what we share while in that community, the beautiful thing is we're actually helping others, right? And I think that giving back and paying it forward is huge as well. So at the end of the day, it's not just what community can do to help us heal, but also what can we provide to our community as a whole for shared well-being. So one of the challenges or nudges I wanted to leave you here with today is how can you get connected to community? What kind of community are you interested in? What are your interests? What are your talents? And what are your struggles? And reach out and take that first step to connect. And we'll be hearing a little bit more how to do that later today. So, with no further ado, I'm going to hand things over to Kenny, who's going to share just an incredible story with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Remi. That was a lot. That was amazing. That was all super important and very helpful stuff. I
Thanks.
wish I could contribute that kind of knowledge to a webinar like this, but I will instead just tell my story.
Which is incredible and helpful and beautiful. I wanted to thank you for coming today.
Oh, thank you, and thank you so much for having me, and thank you to Jacqueline and everybody involved in MHC, and so grateful for you guys for so many reasons. And yeah, it all started just over 3 years ago. I reached out to MHC because I was feeling like I was feeling like I needed to do something more than I had been doing for the last several years, which was booking rap shows and hip hop shows and tours. And I spent 6 years on the Vans Warp Tour, which is the probably the biggest touring festival in our country's history. It's just thousands of people every day. It's 10 stages of music going on simultaneously. It's beautiful chaos, and I learned a lot out there and really grinded out there. And the one thing that I really noticed that stood out to me was a lot of activism happening. It was just people that really cared about a cause, or was very passionate about whatever it was, whether it was animal rights or pride, or uh, a ton of different organizations that were out there spreading the word, people that were out there not getting paid, people that were out there just being passionate about the causes that they believed in. And that really inspired me. And the stage that we performed on happened to be oftentimes right next to something that Warped Tour had called reverse daycare, which was meant for the parents, because a lot of Warped Tour attendees are kids. They're in high school, they're teenagers. They listen to all these rock and punk and metal bands, and we were the hip hop guys, doing our side stage, and we were right next to reverse daycare. And admittedly, reverse daycare had air conditioning, so I snuck in there quite a bit. But what I noticed was they the guy who put Warped Tour together, his name is Kevin Lyman, and this was clearly something that he felt was needed on his platform. And all day, he had mental health professionals, therapists, real like people in the field stopping by to talk to these kids' parents about depression, about cutting, about substance abuse, about all these different things that they might be dealing with, their identity, and, all of these things. And I saw how receptive these parents were to a lot of this. I saw just this, I'm into booking shows and programming in general, right? So like a run of show is an interesting thing to do when you start adding other elements besides people performing music, when you add vendors, when you add, now that we're doing this mental health charity events, we add, public speakers and professionals that can come out and lend their expertise. So the simple fact that Kevin Lyman had coordinated and organized all of these mental health professionals, and keep in mind, Warped Tour is 35 to 50 shows across the country. So it wasn't the same people just on tour. He had actually booked and coordinated people in every city to come out and talk to these parents. And I just thought I was inspired by that, and Warped Tour ended. It is no more. And that was very sad. And I knew that I wanted to do something to just kind of keep that energy going. And I was so inspired by a lot of these activists and these nonprofits. And I kind of had it kicking around in my head. I want to do something to give back to community. I want to do something that supports a cause along with this live music. And shortly after that, a friend of mine in the music scene who I, booked often, I booked his band a bunch of times and was, pretty good friends with him. He committed suicide, and he had a lot of problems, and for anybody that was following him or friends with him on social media, you could see that, and it's almost like when you see that somebody has serious mental health things going on, and you almost see those cries for help, and you see that the talks and his statuses about suicide, and it's scary stuff. And then like, his whole network of people that see this every day now have to see rest in peace, Alex. And I'm sure that affected the community, his community, so much. And I know it affected me. And he wasn't even my best friend or anything. He was just somebody that I worked with through this music stuff. And I had, talked to him a bunch. He was actually going to join my band at one point. We had talked about that. And like, it was just so heavy to see like, wow, this kid is no longer with us, and we all knew he had problems. Some of us might even say like, we saw this coming, but nobody did anything about it. And he didn't do anything about it. And it's just, it really hit me. And I kind of realized at that moment that, okay, this is what I need to do. I need to stop this from happening in my community. This is terrible. And it's not just him. This is these numbers are not going down, and especially through COVID and everything, it's gotten even worse, but as a parent, and at the time my son was probably around 12. He's 15 now, so 11, 12 years old. Losing a child to suicide is literally the most frightening thing in the world. I can't think of anything worse to happen to somebody. And because when you're a parent, you understand that it's a a whole different world, and so being that I work with a lot of hip hop artists that come from a yesteryear era of rap music. I'm not booking young kids. I'm booking guys in their 30s, 40s, and even 50s who are passionate about this music and have been, they always say about hip hop, is hip hop is a culture. It's something that you live. So these are the artists that I gravitate to, and they all are of age that they probably all have children themselves, and they're all juggling their jobs and their wives or girlfriends and their music and their kids, and it's this is not easy. It's not easy to do. So I kind of felt that my calling right now, what I need to do is combine the music, the culture, and tell people that it's okay to talk about your mental health, and it's okay to, you're not crazy talking about this. And that's the stigma that's had really existed within hip hop communities forever. They never wanted to talk about their mental health because they didn't want to seem weak. When you come from hard places, you got to act hard or it's going to eat you alive. And that's just the reality of it when you're from the hood, and I've always had a compassion for this community, and I was part of this community for many years. I'm from Bridgeport and lived on the west side for many years, and I've seen it all. I've seen a lot of negative things, and I just wanted to do something to give back and help, maybe just a little bit. And I had already had a very, very great network of artists that worked with me, that we were booking tours and booking shows, and it was going really well, and I felt like it was now the time to go to the next level of involving community and helping these people be better parents, be better husbands, be better, and that can happen simply by getting them to take care of themselves, because you cannot love anybody else or anything else until you love yourself first. And so many people had lost sight of that, and that was actually for their issues in their family, or their relationship, or their own mental health and stuff. And so many artists that we work with regularly have found that this tour and being a part of it really helps them, you know and so anyway, once I got it in my head that I wanted to do this, I reached out to a bunch of mental health organizations, and some of them were national, and the one that really got back to me and showed interest was Jackie and Mental Health Connecticut. And being that I'm obviously from Connecticut and have a ton of CT pride pumping through my veins at all times, I was like, this is meant to be. This
Yeah.
makes sense. At first, this is a tour, right? It's 5 or 6 different states. So to be partnered with Mental Health Connecticut, I was thinking, now how am I going to work this out when I'm in Massachusetts and when I'm in New York and when I'm in New Hampshire and Rhode Island and etc. So we've found a way to make that work, and our communities, even the artists in other states, are so receptive and have been supportive of Mental Health Connecticut, because it's not about the location of the organization that presents this thing. It's about the results that it's bringing to people. And I've had so many conversations over the last 3 years that oftentimes are difficult to hear, when person after person is telling you about the things that they went through, and that are tragic, and really things that are tough to listen to. But it shows me that this tour is making a difference, and you can even say that it's saving lives. And after 3 years of doing this, we've raised over $40,000 for MHC, which is fantastic. I'm so proud of that. But I'm even more proud of the awareness that we're raising and the
Mm.
impact we're making in the community, and so many people that have expressed to us that this thing is working. So basically what we do is we book a hip hop show, and we add in some therapists on site to talk about these things. We add in some, gift bags, maybe with little mental health resources, or just, we passed out sage in all of our gift bags last year, just theming this whole thing. It's all about self-care. And even though we're we're celebrating hip hop, and this is the 50th anniversary year of hip hop.
Oh,
And we're all about hip hop, but the one thing that we care more about is this, because this is life. This is us. This is what affects our families and our children and ourselves. And hip hop is great, and it's amazing culture to be a part of and involved with, and it's come such a long way in 50 years. And we're all very proud of that. So to combine them both together is so heavy, and people are starting to realize that. And I'm just so proud of my staff, and I'm so proud of the artists that we work with, because they're very receptive to what we're doing. We've had some legendary, inspiring hip hop artists, famous hip hop artists headline these shows. We've had Ghostface Killer from Wu-Tang Clan. We've booked Rakim. We've booked Ritz and Cannabis and Rod Digga and Dizzy Wright, and the list just goes on. Chic Luch, CL Smooth, they've all graced our stages, and the greatest thing about it is we've probably seen these dudes perform before, and they've been doing this for 50 years now, and they've been doing this for such a long time that it's like you go through the motions almost when you're doing these rap shows. But now you're going out to see guys like Ghostface or Rod Digga, or this year we have Onyx, and we have Cool G Rap, and we have Nems and Cormega, like very, very significant artists to the hip hop culture, very well known artists. And now they're taking the stage and they're talking about how important it is to manage your mental health. You know, these same guy, I grew up to I grew up with Ghostface, listening to his music about selling drugs and hurting people. And now he's taking the stage talking about how wild that was back then, and how he's come such a long way, and how like seeing a therapist has helped him. And it's just it's wild to hear these things, and it's so important. And it's like the full blast movement is making that happen. Nobody's ever seen it before. And I can't tell you how proud I am of that, and the impact that it's having, and the results that it's bearing, for both the community and for New England in general. All these artists all over all these states. Um, so for all who are watching, please check out our website, fullblastbooking.net, which has an in-depth, look at. We have a whole section on Tour for Life and Mental Health Connecticut that has recap videos and all of the upcoming events and ways that you can get involved and make donations. And we appreciate everybody's support. Um, it's come a long way. Just a few weeks ago, I was on television. It's like I never thought I would be on the news talking about what we're doing here, but it's happening, and I feel a great shift. And as the owner and operator of this company and the organizer of this tour, learning all of this about mental health management and self-care the last few years has helped me so much in even putting this thing together. So it's really special, because it's like I'm doing something that's groundbreaking, but I'm also learning so much along the way about it, that it's helping it in the process, and it's helping me in the process. And in the last few minutes I got, just to add a personal spin on things, I will, you know, I was in a relationship for 6 years that I thought was forever, and all of a sudden it ended. And literally the first day out on my own, I woke up with a crazy tingling feeling in my feet, right? So I went through 2 weeks of vigorous testing. I had like 6 MRIs and several blood work things done, and I was diagnosed with MS. And here I am now, just out of a 6-year relationship, sitting in a room that I'm renting. I just came from a house with children and dogs and the whole nine. And now I'm sitting in a room by myself in my thoughts. And all I have to think about is, you know, now I have MS, and I've got so much going on. What's going to happen? Can I keep my job? Can I do this? Can I do that? And it's just so easy to fall into a very, very dark place when things like unexpected things like that happen. And they can happen at any time. And that's the proof. You know what I mean? And I'm an incredibly healthy guy. I'm very healthy. So I don't know where or why this happened, but like it happened, and it can happen to anybody. Anything like it can happen to anybody. So the fact that I've learned so much about mental health management the past few years kept me out of a dark place. And I am living proof that it works, just to do the knowledge a little bit and just to,
Mhm.
put a little effort into your own self-care and your own mental health and doing things a certain way to
Mhm.
protect your peace and protect your energy. Learning those things to really prevent, I mean, who knows what could have happened if
Right.
I fell into a dark depression state right when I'm about to announce all my Tour for Life headliners and present the biggest tour I've ever booked. That could be really bad. But it's because of this tour, it's because of Mental Health Connecticut that I was able to stay on top of it and not succumb to demons, serious demons. So I have also, reconnected with an ex-girlfriend who, I've been back talking with ever since, for the last few months, and it's really helped me. She's phenomenal. It's these things that I've learned. I've learned that happiness is the key. Happiness is everything, especially now. I just turned 40 years old. So like once you're down the home stretch of life, so to speak, you're not a kid anymore. You gotta just manage your happiness and be happy. So I decided I'm just gonna start doing things that make me happy, and instead of dwelling on things that make me sad. And it's like I said, it's all because of all I've learned in the past few years about how to do that. Because a few years ago, I wouldn't know how to do that, and I would have been a mess. So to everyone listening, it's possible. You just have to put a little effort into it, just like anything else in life. And I know I'm making it sound easy, and it's not. But self-care is absolutely the move. It is so necessary to anything you're doing in life, your job, taking care of your kids, pets, the hobbies that you're into, the things that make you happy, the activities that you do. All of them will improve if you love yourself first. And that's what I've learned. And to all the supporters of Tour for Life and Full Blast Booking, I can't thank you enough, because this is a community based thing. Um, I do a lot of work for this and I get a lot of recognition for that, and I'm always grateful for it. But it wouldn't be possible without the community, without all the artists that support this, without the fans that come out to support it, without the local vendors that we put on our shows, because we feel that supporting community and buying local is absolute best thing you can do. And it's just supporting each other. And our events are a bunch of people out supporting each other, which is beautiful. And Amy Smith from Mental Health Connecticut comes to pretty much all of our shows with her community mending art projects, which everybody gets involved with. We
Mhm.
have professionals that speak on stage. Susie Craig, Luis Perez has spoken on our stages and really inspired people. And we have, on-site therapists that come from Jersey, Massachusetts, New York City, and can't thank them enough. And it really is, like you said, Remi, it takes a village, and the village is is villaging right now, and it feels so great. And I'm so grateful and thankful to the whole community that supports Tour for Life. So check us out. Come out to a show. We actually have a show tonight at 10 Selden in Woodbridge. We have the CT Hip Hop Fest, and we're going to put all the proceeds from that to Tour for Life as well. Um, so it's at 10 Selden in Woodbridge if anybody wants to pop out. Otherwise, please just check our website, our calendar of events. Follow us on social media. It's Full Blast Booking everywhere, and hopefully you can get involved and we can build this thing as it's been growing. It's been great. So thank you again for having me and
Mhm.
listening. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Kenny. Um, I was, as you mentioned, fortunate to be the first person that you reached here at MHC, and I just love hearing your story and seeing your journey over these last few years. Um, One thing I want to just kind of ask you, I know that we met back before the pandemic hit, and you had this wonderful idea and you had all these plans, and then boom, March 2020 hit. The world's falling apart. It's not safe to get together. Community has a whole new meeting like we're doing now. You had to go to Zoom. You had to be virtual. You had to have the masks on. You had to be 6 feet or more apart. Can you tell us how that whole experience and what motivated you to keep going and keep making the tour work in this chaotic world?
Well, yeah, I think that most creators, whether you're a
Mm.
musician or a an artist or a videographer, photographer, anything like that, they can all tell you when you get inspired, truly 100% inspired to do something, there's not much that's going to stand in your way. Um, and COVID was like the worst thing ever for, especially for the music industry, you
Yeah.
know. People making a living off of music all of a sudden couldn't anymore. And that's scary stuff, especially when you got a family and you got bills and all of that, you know. And it's not just performing musicians, it's stage hands, it's,
Mm.
Yep.
booking guys, it's, promotion companies, it's, I mean, I could go on for an hour saying all of the different kinds of
Hmm.
people that were affected by this industry going under with COVID. And it was awful, and Tour for Life got rescheduled, and then it got rescheduled again, and then it got rescheduled again because I was just gonna keep doing it. I wasn't one of these people that's just like, all right, I need to quit until this whole thing comes back. Because you know what? A lot of those people, they never came back. It's a lot to come back from. So, and I knew it was gonna be like that. So I wanted to just stay on top of it. And I was on a mission. So there was nothing that was gonna stop me. So I, just kept putting it off until it was legal to have events again, and even when it was legal to have events again, I couldn't do something like Tour for Life. I started doing these little um events on people's patios. Bars were doing stuff outside when they could,
Mhm.
and slowly opened up inside. Happened in certain states before others, so I was just staying on top of that, doing what I could where I could. It was all in the name of mental health, right? Which was so ironic because this pandemic was really affecting people's mental health like bad,
Yep.
and it's like I started this whole thing before COVID even happened, before we ever even knew what COVID was, or how it would affect people. So um I stayed, on top of it, and it was really like frustrating. And when I realized, okay, this date that I've rescheduled, rescheduling 5 different headliners at 5 different dates, different venues in different states in a row, it's not easy to do. You know what I mean? It's a lot of coordination, and it's a lot of you know attention to detail and this and that. So like I would reschedule all of these guys to this date, and then as that date approached, I would realize, what, still isn't going to happen. So let's put it off another few months, and then I realized, what, it's still not going to happen. So let's put it off again. And um, that luckily one of the greatest things that happened during COVID was the Klein Memorial Theater reaching out to me to,
Mm.
um, coordinate and book and present a whole live music concert series in their parking lot. They turned their whole parking lot into a concert space with a stage and all of that. So they hired me to book a bunch of events for them that we did for a while, and that was helpful because it was keeping me busy, and you know I just felt like keeping music alive was so important because there's so many people that need music for their mental health. And now that's just been completely taken away from them. And a lot of people, especially I feel like the people that make the rules, didn't understand that like there's a lot of people that need live music more so than like it's their job and it's how I feed my family, but it's what keeps me sane. People, and I talk about self-care, right? And just doing things that make you happy. Those things are so important to do. And when they get taken away from you, it's tough, and it might seem silly, like, oh, you can survive for a year without this or without that. And it's like, yeah, but can you? I mean, this is part of my mental. It's part of my puzzle. You're taking a piece out of the puzzle, and I'm not complete. So that's why I felt like, we had a lot of support because a lot of people understood that. Thankfully, I didn't get canceled like a lot
Mm.
of promoters did, people trying to be reckless during COVID and do reckless things. And of course you're going to get canceled. We were very like careful to do things the right way.
Yep.
Um, so I'm very thankful for that. And, we came out of COVID swinging. So like as soon as the world opened up, we were on. We were one of the first big things back after COVID. It was awesome, you know. So the pandemic was super unfortunate, and really just caused a lot of confusion and a lot of people just being uncomfortable with, I was talking with a friend earlier, who's got kids, right, who were kept home on Zoom for 3 years, and they're starting high school next year. And this is actually the first time they're getting out into the real world, and they're anxious about it. They're not well, they
Yep.
don't know what to think. And like it's like we all said this was going to happen when they started doing schools on Zoom. You know, we know this is not healthy with no human interaction and no physical activity, and know this, you're just in front of a screen getting overstimulated all day. You know, now we're seeing the effects of that now that things are starting to get back to normal. You know, these kids are not well. So it's had its effect, and people are to this day are still, you know, reeling from it, and it's unfortunate. But I'm really glad that things are back to normal, and it seems like, especially with live music, it's full swing back to normal now. So so yeah, we maintained, and thankful to MHC for sticking by my side throughout the whole thing. It was very easy for so many people to say, you know what, man, we gotta just pump the brakes on this right now. We gotta just toss this aside until the world comes back. But MHC was riding with me, and they, you know, they supported everything I did during it. And when we came out, so many people expressed to us on the first Tour for Life how much they needed Tour for Life at that point. And the pandemic was a huge reason for that, you know.
Yep.
So everything happens for a reason, you know, and here we are.
Yeah. And I will say MHC needed Tour for Life just as much as the community did. So we were right there with you. We wanted to see it happen. And we're so happy of all the success that you've had, watching the communities that you've created because of Tour for Life. I was able to go out to some in Bridgeport and just see people just coming together for the first time in so long, being able to take their mask off and smile and joke and enjoy live music. It's like just being able to watch that, because I have to, still keep social distance. I do have autoimmune, so I'm a little further away from other people back then. But just being able to look back and see, it's just like, wow, I've missed this. I've missed this so much. And like you said, that piece of the puzzle, being able to start building it back together again, it's so powerful, it's so impactful. And that really is that impact of community healing for me. And one of the many reasons that we decided to invite you to come out and share your story of Tour for Life and our partnership with you. I'm just so proud that I got to be a part of it. And I want to personally thank you for sticking with us and sticking with your passion and being such a strong advocate for mental health and suicide prevention. So thank you so much, Kenny. And I do want to say we do have about 10 minutes left in our webinar. So if anyone in the audience has a question for Kenny or for Remi, please again put that in the Q&A function on your screen. But I do want to ask a question of Remi while we wait for some of the questions to come in. I know you had talked about the anticipatory grief, and when Kenny was talking about the kids being put into this Zoom area and being very detached and isolated, and now having to come back to school, come back to in person. What is your insight on that returning to normal? Is that anticipatory grief still a factor? And how do you think that communities can come together to help in that regard?
Sure. So my answer is yes, yes, and it's important. So here we go. Yeah. Kenny, when you were talking about like the kids voicing that they're kind of feeling ungrounded and the parents being very nervous, I would be surprised if people felt okay about returning. Look, they were, again, our social, our being around other people, being able to connect. Even when we do things on Zoom, like I could see your eyes, Kenny, but there's a different feeling when we miss body language cues. Even, I mean, you could see somebody from Europe, right? You're missing these subtle cues that really add to that feeling of real true connection, right? Um, and so what I could suggest, and I know that they've really been thoughtful about this in the school systems, is we need a slow return. One of the things I would suggest that parents do is during the time that the kids have been home, I'm not sure if this is kind of ending now and going forward, but really asking and checking in with their children about, hey, what's going on in your head around this? I mean, this is new stuff, right? And giving them an opportunity to talk about what they're hesitant about, but also what they're excited about, right? And for those things that they're hesitant about, really kind of validating that you're not odd to feel that way. Um, And so giving them a voice, allowing them to be heard and feedback, and have them sit down and maybe jot, kids are different ages and can express things differently. But even if it's a youngster and a younger one, having them even taking a poster of all different feelings and having them point to what it is, right? And have them talk about it. Teenagers and kids that you were talking about that are going out of, it sounds moving from middle school into high school, we need to check in. I know they're not always open books and they talk to their friends. It's more likely they're going to share stuff with their friends than they will parents. But, just taking an opportunity, it doesn't have to be for a formal sit down. Like, okay, we want to talk to you tonight about your return to school. But you know how kids are, just like during a moment having some pizza on a Friday night, say, God, I just realized this is going to be huge for you. How's it been weighing on your mind? Put it on a scale, 0, it doesn't bother me at all, to 10, I'm freaking out, right? And ask them and help them come up with ideas of things they can do to kind of make a slow entry. We're in summer now, right? So maybe it's been a while since they've been in this big noisy environment, right? I'm sure they've chosen a select few to be around over the summer, but you know how the hallways are. I mean, it's so much stimulation and, social stuff to deal with. Have them start jotting it down, make plans. Again, about that self-care, have them kind of investigate and try some things that really help them feel more at ease, and bring their stress level down. Taking walks, getting that exercise, but have them come up with some ideas, right? Like, send the message. I know you've got the ideas there. Let's work on them a little bit. But I just think having a voice, somebody saying to him, wow, totally get that. I feel that way too. And then have them do a little planning, right? I wish the school would give them, like, I don't know if when they start back to school back in my day, used to be like the first couple of days were half days, or the way they were situated somehow was like you would come back and then there was a holiday shortly thereafter. See, so it was kind of a slow transition, but, you know, kind of, what would I say? Prescribe the symptom, which means not in hope they're going to have problems, but hey, you might feel a little out of sorts or a little nervous. How do you think you want to prepare for that? What do you think you can do that would help you just a bit to feel better, right? For the younger ones, kids like kindergarten age, at that age where they're not able to really verbalize their feelings, again, use the feelings poster with them. And oftentimes what I'll have parents do is, before the child goes to bed, have them color a big paper bag so it's all pretty, right? And have the child draw a picture of, or even spell phonetically or what have you, something they're worried about, and put it in that bag that they've decorated. And then at night, mom and dad or the parent or the guardian could come and take that bag from them, right? And what that's showing the child is it's giving them a chance to write it down, right? And express it, whether it's a drawing or whatever. But they're seeing the parents take it, which means my guardian's got me here. My caregiver has got me here. They're going to take this from me, right? To help me release some of my sadness or scaredness or what have you, right? And then the parent can look through some of those things and follow up with a talk with the child about, okay, God, I got that. You drew a scary monster. And it's in front of a chalkboard. That looks like the teacher. Tell me about it. Tell me what frightens you. And again, too, community. Parents, you've got a community. You guys have come together, each other. It'd be great. Get the kids together. Have them talk about stuff, right? Have it in a really chill environment, just outside in the yard, and bring up some of that stuff when they're sitting down, having their snack or their lunch, because they'll get to hear from each other that it feels a little unwieldy. That's for the younger ones, but tell people, I got it. I can imagine this is what you have going on, but I don't want to imagine. Let me hear it from you, right? Be curious, have them explain to you what it is that's going on, right?
Yep.
And help them through that plan.
That's excellent advice, Remi. Thank you.
You
And
want
it's a good point to remember that your own family unit is a community in itself. and you can lean on each
Absolutely.
other and support each other.
Mm,
And I would say families, come on out to Tour for Life.
beautiful.
It's a great experience to bring the family, connect with other families, and
Right.
just enjoy a wonderful afternoon or evening together as your own mini community, connecting to a larger community of music, of neighborhoods, of
Yeah.
advocates. um, there's just so many interconnections when you come to Tour for Life, that you get to meet just an excellent group of people and all the wonderful musicians and everyone that helps to put it together. I highly recommend it. And I'm so looking forward to August to go
Mm,
for the tour. And I did have a question that came in for you, Kenny. If you could tell us just a little bit about what people have to look forward to. I know you mentioned the show
mhm,
tonight, but what does August look like? And what does the music look like, and how's it been informed since having the theme of mental health awareness? Do
mm,
you feel that the artists have been more inspired? I know you've said about the example of an individual talking about that they've gone to therapy on the stage, but do you think that that's being resonated in the music as well?
mm,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So firstly, Tour for Life is 5 dates this summer. It hits Jersey, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut. We have headliners, NEMS, Cormega, Sky Zoo, Onyx, and Cool G Rap. And as Jackie mentioned, it is a great experience. You can bring the family, you can check it out and just feel the vibes and the sense of community and support. And purchasing a ticket to Tour for Life is supporting Mental Health Connecticut. We put 100% of proceeds to MHC. So it's kind of like a win-win. You get to have a ton of fun and enjoy yourself and see something that you don't see every day, and support a great cause at the same time. And one thing, and I was talking about this with a good friend yesterday. Um, one of the things that we've been seeing a lot is these artists getting on stage, and now they're performing, a new song that I have that's all about this stuff. And clearly being on Tour for Life has inspired that in them. And the great thing is, like, I don't even have to ask these, and we book so many artists for Tour for Life. It'll be like totally in total like 40 artists. I don't have to even tell them, hey, this is a mental health charity event. You should probably play some songs that, resonate with the cause a little bit, or, if you got any, but I don't have to say that. They do it on their own. They know the assignment, they know what they're there for. And that is, I think that's awesome. That inspires me. It tells me that we are vetting and selecting the right artist for this thing, because we look for two things. You got to be very talented. Obviously, we're not going to put people that need a lot of work still on stage. We have other events for that, and we were all about artist development. And, not everybody's ready for the big stage to open up for Ghostface, but so we look for artists that are very talented, but we, more importantly than that, we look for solid human beings, good people that get it, that get this cause, and that understand they're not trying to use our platform to be all about me. um they get it. And to answer the question, yes, that being on this tour has absolutely inspired artists to make some music about, what they're going through, which all that is them expressing themselves. It's almost like therapy. When I can create a song, that's my outlet anyway, right? That's what I do no matter what I'm writing about. That's what every artist does when they need to get some stuff off their chest, when they need to, it's therapy. You know what I mean? So to know that Tour for Life has inspired them to create more music like that, and oftentimes so they can perform it on Tour for Life, that's an amazing feeling to me. And they're all having the time of their lives out there. So it's, again, it's a win-win.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Kenny, and thank you, Remi, for sharing and sharing your expertise. We are going to close our webinar today, but I am going to share that I will do a follow-up email to all of our attendees and share MHC's Community Healing Directory and resource list. It was created in response to the ongoing instances of the trauma, the police brutality, the hate crimes that have been happening, not just here in Connecticut, but globally. So you'll find a compiled list of organizations, coalitions, task force, councils, you name it, any
Mhm.
group that is meeting the needs when it comes to education, advocacy, social justice, trainings, and basic healing for our communities. So following that directory, you'll also have a list of educational resources that can help you to navigate, facilitate discussions around race and privilege, information around self-care and coping in times of strife. So this is a free resource available, and we hope that between this and checking out Tour for Life, that you will find a wonderful sense of community, take your power back, have that connection back to community, and just continue to take care of yourselves. So again, thank you to our speakers, thank you to everyone in attendance, and I wish you all a wonderful day.
Thank you. Be well.